I've actually been meaning to make this video for a while, especially with my new, what's the word I'm looking for, desire to get into creating more educational content around this game. So, I guess we can call this the first unofficial episode of Basics by Daylight, which is I'm going to basically be doing a series where I go over all the Basics by Daylight, things like terminology and, things like terminology and basic fundamentals and understanding things like breakpoints and things like that. So today, let's talk about M1 killers versus M2 killers. What makes an M1 killer an M1 killer, what makes the difference, and how they synergize with everything involving that. So today we got the question of what is an M1 killer, what does it mean? So the M in M1 and M2 killers refers to your mouse. M1 is normally also known as left click, where M2 is also normally known as right click. So whenever you hear someone refer to somebody as an M1 killer or an M2 killer, it refers to the left and right mouse buttons on a PC. I don't know how it is on console. I don't play on controller, unfortunately, but M1 is your basic attack, while M2 is normally the killer's special power. In the game, whenever you're looking at the killer's power, and it says press and hold the power button, that is always resorting to your M2 or your right click. If it says hold the active ability button, which would be on... So, the Dream Projection says hold the active ability button. For PC, that is your control. I have it bound to my M5, but that is the control. So the power button is your M2, and the ability button is just like an extra ability that the game has. Now, the main difference and how we describe the difference between an M1 killer and an M2 killer is how their primary source of damage is dealt. Not whether or not the damage dealt can happen from an M2, but how their primary source of damage is dealt. So Trapper, Wraith, Myers, Hag, Doctor, Freddy, to a lesser extent Pig. I'll explain Pig in a video dedicated to Pig, which an analyzing Pig video should be coming out soon. Clown, and yes, and this is so fucking wild, Spirit is another example. So examples of very strong M1 killers are Spirit, Plague, Deathslinger, Cenobite, etc., etc. So M1 just means that their primary source of damage comes from their basic attacks. M2 means that the primary source of damage comes from their special attacks. Now, just because an M2 can assist in the M1, it doesn't make a killer an M2 killer. So again, if we bring it back to Spirit, Spirit is an M1 killer because all of her hits are basic attacks. But she's treated like an M2 killer because her phase is so powerful that it assists you in getting those M1 hits more often and more consistently. So when we're discussing the difference between M1 killers and M2 killers, that's what you got to remember. How M1 killers play is very, very, very limited and constricted. And oftentimes being an M1 killer holds you back in the power level tier list. So for a great example, even though Cenobite has one of the best M2s in the game because it literally holds the survivors in place, he's not as strong because he still has to deal his primary damage with his M1. Some people might think I'm weird for calling Deathslinger an M1 killer because technically his M2 does damage, but you cannot get the down without the M1. So because of that, Slinger is an M1 killer, but he's got a very powerful M2. But because he has to use his M1 to confirm the down, he can't do it with his gun, he is stuck in B tier. He can't go to A because the M2 can't do a down if they're on the other side of a pallet or if they're too far away or something like that. Other examples of killers who have damaging M2s but are still considered M1 killers are killers like the Pig. The Pig has the ambush, or also Bubba. I talk about this in my Bubba video that's coming out this Friday as of recording this. Bubba and Pig are both technically M1 killers, even though they have damaging M2 abilities. Bubba's primary damage is the chainsaw, but he's considered an M1 killer, at least in my eyes, because he has to play like one. He still suffers at strong pallets, windows, long loops, and large maps as well. Pig, I consider an M1 killer because her ambush is incredibly predictable, it's very difficult to pull off, and it's honestly, like, incredibly shit, even with the buffs it received. So because of that, you would largely consider her an M1 killer. However, there are other characters who are hybrid killers. An example of that is Oni. Oni is an M1 killer in the beginning of the match until he gets his power and gets a regular flow of the blood economy. So once his blood economy is up, then he ends up getting into the M2 status. So those are the main difference. So what are the weaknesses of M1 killers versus M2 killers? M1 killers suffer at a lot of the inherent map design. So the any kind of safe or god palettes, which I'll do another video on that later, extremely long loops, so loops where the killer can't instantly get to the other side. So if they've got long walls like TL walls, jungle gyms, stuff like that, and also most of the main buildings in the game. And they also suffer on maps that M1 killers also suffer on maps that have a lot of pallets. So Greenville Square, Gideon's Meat Plant, Hawkins Lab, those are all things that M1 killers suffer on because they don't have any way to deal with the pallets or any way to catch survivors before they reach the pallets. Because of this, a lot of M1 killers are extremely perk and add-on reliant, again with a few exceptions. So when you're looking at the branching, when you're trying to make an M1 killer work, you have to basically understand the way that M1 killers are built and their weaknesses. So when we're doing, right now we're filming a series on advanced trapper tips. And what we're basically trying to do here is I'm trying to teach you guys how to play M1 killers overall. Because at the end of the day, Trapper is the M1 killer of M1 killers. And so I want you guys to just kind of understand how M1 killers work and why I'm starting with Trapper. But yeah, do we have any other questions about M1 killers versus M2 killers? All right, awesome. Well, chat, that was our very first Basics by Daylight. And if you guys want to hang out with me and chat and also spark some of these conversations, and make sure you're at least 18 years of age of older, and then click on the description down below. But other than that, let me know what you guys think over on the YouTube. And as always, a great big special thank you to my channel members listed on the screen now. You want to find out how to become a channel member today, get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Need more Kaiser in your life? Well, I've got you covered. Check out my second channel, Kaiser Extras, where I upload full gameplays, stream compilations, me reacting to your Dead by Daylight clips, and more. We also upload a daily short with all the greatest clips from stream. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.